Hello, Abdoul. It's good to see you again after almost 6 months since we last met. It's very good to see you and talk to you again. Since we are close colleagues, which in fact we just 2 days ago published an article together, we have of course kept in touch over these 6 months since we last met. But I cannot help thinking about how much the world has changed. From the world 6 months ago, when we met in Dakar, not only contributing to an important seminar together, but I also remember the last day before my departure from Dakar, where we spent the whole day together, you showing me around Dakar, that wonderful trip to Gorée Island. And we were talking, in fact, you and me and Kari, about what will happen, how the pandemic could come to impact all of us.
It was very nice to be in Gorée Island with you and Kari. And as you said, the pandemic started to impact the situation in the Gorée Island, because you know that most of people who are living in this Gorée Island are, let's say, earning their living on tourism, because there is a lot of tourists coming from all around the world to visit Gorée Island, especially the house of slaves, etc., etc.
How has this affected your life, your work, and your situation as a researcher, but also as a father and as a member of a family?
Yeah, I can say that when the COVID-19 started, we had to change our way of working. For example, we shut down our offices for, let's say, from March to September almost, where we were working from home. And working from home was also difficult, because when you have like little kids around at home, it's difficult to set time for your work and set time to, to be with them, etc. So it was challenging, but at the same time it was a new way of coping with this new situation. So what I did is, for example, in my own experience, I tried to create a small office in my apartment, because I live in a flat. So I had a small room where I managed to have a small office. So basically what I was doing all this time is just most of the time working at night, because I have a young boy who is like 2 years old, so he's very close to me, and if during the day he's always around, so it's difficult, and he always wants to play with my computer.
I think you said something important when you said coping with. And I mean, as far as I know, the Senegalese government initiated quite strong measures to try to prevent the transmission of the virus. How has people on the streets of Dakar, how did they cope with the measures?
It looked like the way the government was taking decision was mostly influenced by the way France was implementing measures, but at the end they realized that the sociological context is very different, so they start changing. For example, regarding the curfew, the government implemented a curfew starting, I think it was around 6 p.m. It was around 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. So what happened with this kind of measure is that most people, you know how urban, African urban cities are built. You know, it's like a French colonial architect where you have the center of the city is the business, downtown of the city is where all the business are taking place. So people are moving from the suburb in the morning, moving to the center of the city, and at the end of the day, they have to move back to their house in the suburb of the city. So that was the big challenge because we have some very difficult situation with public transportation. So the police and even the army was in the street trying to, control the implementation of the curfew. So you have some type of situation where citizens were beat up by the police, and schools were closed. The university was closed too. And this is a type of situation that I think is very difficult for the government to handle, because you have, for example, you have the church is controlling one of, let's say 80% of the private school are controlled by the church in Senegal, even though it's a Muslim country at 90% or 95%. The church has this very powerful control over private schools. So what the church did is they set their own rules. The government tried to reopen the schools, but when the government took this decision, the church was not ready to open the schools. It was a kind of chaotic situation where the Minister of Education took decision, to push the teachers to go back to school, etc., in a situation where the teacher was not ready.
How do you see the effects on the Senegalese economy?
The fishermen in Senegal mostly are working, what they are fishing in Mauritania or Guinea-Bissau, etc. With the COVID-19, the border with this country was closed. So it means that these fishermen were really impacted by the COVID-19. You look at the tourism sector, it's the same thing. And the diaspora also is very impacted because the country where this diaspora are living are in Europe and the US, etc., or even South Africa. And these countries are very impacted by so it means that the level of migrants it fall drastically, and it impact really the Senegalese economy.
I mean, I'm so lucky so that I live in a country like Norway, which has a huge sovereign wealth fund that we can draw upon. I mean, the so-called Norwegian oil fund. So, I mean, we have Norway more or less have money in the bank, to put it that way, that we can sort of use to increase government spending during this period, both for emergency purposes, but also in order to increase unemployment benefits and these kind of things. I of course know that the Senegalese government do not have the same opportunity as Norway has. But has the Senegalese government been able to take any initiatives at all to try to sort of help the economy through this crisis?
Yeah, I think for this question, we had the government take some bold initiative on trying to help, let's say, especially the private sector. I think they give a kind of deadline for small businesses and private sector to pay taxes, etc., by the end of July 2020. So it means that they give them almost 3 to 4 months of deferral. Also, there was this first COVID-19 fund that was created. So all the people, let's say individuals or company who, let's say, give donation to this first COVID-19 fund were able to deduct the donation from their tax payment. The government worked with the banking system to create a type of environment where small businesses were able to take loans without having to pay immediately, let's say, interest.
This flexibility with regard to taxes, cutting taxes, postponing VAT and so on, it also, well, it reduces the tax base of the government, which may sort of create problems in the future. What is the public opinion about these measures that the government has taken in this regard?
There is this study that was released, let's say 2 weeks ago, showing that these small businesses that are called the informal sector are the ones who were more able to cope with the context of the COVID-19. The research showed that there was a lot of different hypotheses showing why they were able to cope with this context of COVID-19. Talking about, for example, the fact that the charge, the cost and the charge that they have are very low, etc. And they are also very flexible in the way they deliver services. For example, during the COVID-19, what is interesting is, for my own experience, all what I bought during this period of COVID-19, I bought it online, and it was delivered by young people with this, motorcycle. They come to your house, knock in your house, they give you the product and you pay, etc. So this is, I think, a way of, it's a flexible way of coping with the situation. Instead of, for example, other big businesses who stay in their shops waiting for clients to come and buy, etc. People are saying that, for example, the government stimulus for the against the COVID-19 were more allocated to already rich companies. It goes to almost rich companies, like big companies who own big hotels, etc., in the tourism sectors, etc. But the money did not go to like very small businesses who need it. So it means that I think there is a need to adapt, for example, the stimulus that the government is providing, and to target more small businesses, etc. And to illustrate what I'm saying is that, the government, the president reshuffled his government recently, last week, and they create a ministry for the informal sector. It's interesting. So we'll see how it's going to work. But I think even regarding tax collection, because the main challenge for the Senegalese tax system is to reach out these small businesses who are in the informal sectors. The government tried to provide rice, oil, and I don't know, there's sugar, yes, to people, low-income people. But I think the people are saying that there was a better way to do it. For example, a better way that could create more transparency. For example, if you transfer money to people, low-income people, they will be able to use the money to know exactly what they need to buy, etc. But at the end, the conclusion is this big operation of delivering rice, sugar, and oil was a kind of a way to create some type of corruption, because even the minister who was handling the operation was, I think there was some type of investigation against him for mismanagement, etc. So far. So it showed that the feeling among the majority of the population is that even the government took some measure to help the people, but the way this measure was implemented was there was a lot of mismanagement and a lack of transparency.
In your point of view, what's the path to recovery in the case of Senegal? And I know that this would be a guesstimate, but in your point of view, how long will it take for the Senegalese economy to get back where it was prior to the pandemic?
Okay, this is a kind of tough question.
I know, but you can deal with it.
I think the challenge is how to accompany these small businesses to get out of the informal sector. It is the whole challenge, how to help them. So the first challenge is how to build confidence between government and these small, because there is always this culture of, dissimulating, for example, revenue that people have in the informal sector because they are afraid of taxes. But if we are able to build a tax system that is more transparent and more based on equity, etc., where the citizens, even if they are in the informal sector, they know that if they pay, for example, €2, they know that this €2, part of this €2 will be reinvested to build, for example, a hospital for where if his family is sick, they can go there, etc. I think this can push people to change their mind and, and be ready to, work in a more formal sector. But it's a long process. If you look at the environment of West Africa today, I'm not talking about only Senegal, but most West African people, the main debate is about trust between the political elite and society. Because it looks like all our political elite are always discussing about tricks, stratagem to keep the power. It looks like the goal is not to deliver. The goal is just to how to manage to keep the power, to stay in power for as long as possible. And you know it better than me. The demographics that we have, more and more young people are, getting in the labor market with no skills. And it's about recovery is also about the educational system. We have to question the educational system, build an educational system where people are more oriented toward like having skills instead of having this kind of generalized knowledge. For example, in the case of Senegal, we have built this kind of tradition of having elite who, have, general culture about everything. I think it's related to the heritage of Senghor, the former president Senghor. He is a prototype of the Senegalese intellectual. So we are all we still in this kind of prototype of educational system, and we have to get out of it to enable us to give our young people some type of skill and keep them at home, trying to have a life project at home. Because if you look at recently, for example, the immigration is taking a very high level recently. A lot of young people are starting to move again, fleeing the country, even in Senegal here. In Senegal, the COVID-19, let's say, prevalence is falling down because I thank God to we have professionals in the healthcare system who have very good skills, and I think they help a lot on providing care and building a prevention strategy against the COVID-19. So far, for example, let's say the statistics are going down, but people are keeping, for example, distances. The technician who is in front of me recording our interview, he's wearing his mask. So it shows that even the statistic of COVID-19 is going down. People are know that it's better to keep safety, to be cautious, etc., etc. So this is something that will help us in the road of recovery. But I think the main challenge in this road of recovery is to build a robust healthcare system. For the 3 years to come, we have a political elite that is starting to prepare already the election. So it means that I don't know if people are in a mood to rebuild, for example, public policy that can help us achieve the recovery, or if they are in a mood to keep the power. This is a very tricky question for me. I really don't have an answer.
I'm certain that we will continue this conversation as we continue to develop and expand our research collaboration. I already know have a few ideas that I would like to discuss with you further, particularly concerning informality and the informal sector. So thanks a lot, Abdoul, for the conversation. I do hope that soon, one beautiful day, we will walk the narrow streets of Dakar again together and have this conversation. Thank you, Abdoul. Thanks for being available. Thanks for the conversation, and I look forward to talking to you soon again.
Thank you so much, Morten. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.